Morning, Chuck. Good morning, everyone that's joining us. What a great day.
How are you?
I am
It
so
is a
good
great
today.
day.
I'm fine as frog hair, split three ways. Hey, I am
Oh,
really
that,
excited to be here this morning, Chuck. Let me do a quick introduction for those who may be joining us that don't know who we are. My
who
name
we
is
are.
James Tippett. I am the Vice President of Business Development at Workplace AI, and I am hosting our webinar this morning with Chuck Coonradt. And what a pleasure it is for me to be here with you this morning. Let me
Well,
tell
the
everyone a
pleasure.
little bit about you. I love doing the intros. Chuck is the chairman of the board and the CEO at Game of Work. Game of Work was founded in 1973, and Chuck is a graduate of Michigan State and is internationally recognized in the field of goal setting, profit improvement, as an author, consultant, and speaker. Chuck's best-selling book, The Game of Work, is what we're here discussing today, but he's also written The Better People Leader, Scorekeeping for Success, Managing the Obvious, and The Four Laws of Debt-Free Prosperity. Those are all management must-reads. He was a contributing author to the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, which I think everyone loves, and was a founding member of the School of Entrepreneurship at Brigham Young University in the Marriott School of Management. Forbes magazine labeled him as the grandfather of gamification. And man, that's what we're going to talk about today. The gamification and making work fun. I'm excited about that.
Well, I'm excited to be here, James. I appreciate all the things that your team at Workplace AI has done to allow us to bring the game of work not so much back, but to give it a new opportunity and to go forward in application for the people that are still willing to participate and those who are on the webinar today. So I think we want
Awesome.
to encourage people to ask questions. I know we've got a couple we're going to talk about, and I'm ready.
Awesome. Yeah. So as you just mentioned, I'll highlight that again. For those that are joining us on Zoom, you can just use the chat feature and feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. Those of you that are joining us on the LinkedIn live feed, you can still make comments there, and we've got a moderator that'll get those over to us so that we'll pick those up and be able to get some responses to you. So thank you for joining us. So, Chuck, you had mentioned that it's been a little while since you wrote Game of Work. Um, Tell us a little bit about the progression, what you've seen over time, and a little bit about where the book has grown and gone over the years. Where did it start, and where are we at now?
Well, the start of the book, I'm not sure how far back it goes, but I've been a sports nut for a long time, and also starting as a motivational guy, was interested in what the motivation of sport is. We put a tagline on it and called it the motivation of recreation, and used a little tongue twister, which I will apologize for, but it'll be in the recording. And that is, I wonder why is it that people will pay for the privilege of working harder than they will work if you pay them. And, I have the great privilege to live here in Park City, Utah, and we are a ski resort. Um, been getting a little national publicity for our ski patrollers strike, but that's now settled. So come on
Good.
down. We're all ready. But we, for a period of time, had a program that we called Ski and Scheme, and we would do that at the Deer Valley Ski Resort, also America's #1 ski resort. And we'd start at 7 o'clock. This was all to meet IRS regulations. We'd meet from 7 to 9. Well, at 7 o'clock, that meeting room would be chilly. Sometimes it would be 60 or 65 degrees, and we'd have people whining and complaining about how cold it was. At 9 o'clock, we had a group of instructors who came and picked us up, and we went out and skied where it was 15 degrees. Nobody complained. And so that was probably what inspired it. It came to fruition because our company started in 73, and we had been distributing material from a company called Success Motivation Institute out of Waco, Texas. And one of my great early mentors, Mr. Paul J. Meyer, was its founder and president. And it focused heavily on goal setting. And as we started to implement it, and we took kind of a Sunday school approach, instead of just dropping the Bible off, if you will, we met with our clients every week and took a part of it and used audio tapes and started to facilitate how they got to the goal. And from that, we started to look at short interval scheduling and worked out some of the principles that were that were in the game of work. But that's where it originally came from, was just my fascination between this difference between people on the job and people on the golf course. You know, people will go to Southern California or Phoenix and they'll play golf in 90-degree weather. And if the air conditioning goes down in their office and the temperature goes up to 83, they go, "We got to get out of here. There is
I've got
no
to go
way
home. This is
I." Well, and then you see them in the parking lot, and one of them will go, "Well, what do you think, Jim? Golf or tennis?" Uh, so, so we, and this then became sort of took on a life of its own. But it the game of work, the principles, the core principles, for those of us on the call that are not familiar or haven't been clients in the past, the five elements of the motivation and recreation were: number one, we identified that the feedback was more frequent and better quality in recreation. So in recreation, every time you hit a golf ball, take a walk on a hike, squeeze a trigger on a shotgun, um, anything you're doing, that feedback is immediate. You may plant a ski pole, make a turn, you throw up a basketball on a playground hoop. Right away, we know what it is. And
you know
unfortunately,
how you're doing.
absolutely. And if you look at the typical, and it's getting better, I have to admit, over the 40 years, but when we started this process back in the 80s, a typical feedback situation would be once a year, 40 minutes. These are the things that upset me about what you did last year, and I've been stewing on it for 9 months since it occurred. I mean,
What a
you
great
know,
feedback process.
yeah, I mean, that makes as much sense as if your wife asks you how dinner was, you say, "Let me get back to you with a written evaluation on our anniversary." Last dinner, last dinner you're going to have for a while. So, so that's kind of where, so feedback's more important. Scorekeeping, we found, is way better in recreation than it is in work. Now realize that in 1973, what we meant by a scorecard was drawn on grid paper with a ruler and maybe a four-function calculator to figure out what the average line was going to look like. When I saw Lotus 123 in 1985, I said, now we can close the patent office because we now have everything we will ever need. And
Everything we need is here now.
everything we need now. And now, we have such contemporaneous feedback available to us, and the work in this whole gamification process has become great. Um, Goals were an important part of it. Element number four was that the coaching, they didn't change the rules on you in the middle of the game. So the coaching is very, very consistent in recreation, whereas in work, this was the year that we were going to build new business. Oh, wonderful. Then we found out we forgot about taking care of the customers we had. Oh, let's shift that priority. And you've been around this game long enough to know that herkum and jerkum kind of thing just totally confuses the team. So,
Yeah.
and the
And the
fifth
customer.
one, and the customers for sure. And the fifth one was that there's a higher degree of choice in recreation. I'm a downhill skier. I don't think there's any reason to walk up a mountain with a perfectly good lift on it. But you have these people that are three pinners and cross country, and they say there's no reason to pay somebody to get you where you can go on your own. It's all choice. Okay. I think getting out of an
That's a great explanation for that.
I think getting out of an airplane while the engine still works is not a good idea.
And yet
But
I love
but
it.
skydivers are going, "Oh, you just have to experience this. You just
Yep.
don't understand." But as a scuba diver, makes perfect sense to me to put 45 minutes with the air on my back and get as deep as I possibly can to enjoy that. So it's all choice, but we don't have very much of that in business, and so we whine about not getting buy-in, and you can't get buy-in to a process unless you have the players having some element of choice. So, short seminar on the foundation.
Well, and that was a great introduction and explanation for those that may not have read the book. The, the correlation between recreation and what we're willing to do in sport and what we're willing to do or what our companies allow us to do in work, uh, there's some real differentiation there. And so I'm excited to really get into this. We've got a couple of quick comments, Chuck, that I'll just share with you. Connie is on with us. She apparently worked with you in the past at Bank of Utah, and she said she's been using this since '87 and still teaches it in her presentations. And Richard is excited to be with us this morning. Glad to be here. So thank you both for your comments, and we're glad you're here with us as well.
Well,
So
Connie's a very special individual, and just a quick story. Um, when we did the implementation at her bank, one of the questions was, what can we do for the receptionist? And in those days, your balance wasn't here. You had to call and see if my check was going to clear. And so this receptionist would spend her entire day calling, transferring a call, calling, transferring a call. And as we started to talk about how do you win, which is one of the key elements, how do we differentiate your day? Is there anything else that she could be doing? And so she, along with Connie's coaching, decided that before she turned them over to balance verification, she would ask them if there was any other service that they needed at the bank. And as a result of that, she started to graph the total number of phone calls, the number of times she asked, the number of times that somebody gave her a positive response. And she became responsible for directing a lot of business into the loan department, and a number of other things, where previously, in probably every other bank in the country, that receptionist would say, I'm just answering the phone. And so it was a
wow.
terrific, I'm glad she's with us. She's one of my absolute favorite people. Um, just a great example of how you take mundane and get an ability to identify what is it that you're doing here that makes a difference that we're not recognizing.
Yeah,
And
great example of the scorecard as well.
yes, very much so. So,
Awesome. Thank you. Well, Connie, we're glad you're here. So, Chuck, tell me just what do you think the most misunderstood concept is in the game of work?
well, I'm gonna give our participants a secret sauce. When we started out, we thought goal setting was the gig. And then we started to do scorekeeping mostly as a path to achieve. But John Wooden said, or at least it's credited, was saying it's what you learn after you think you know it all that really matters. And my experience in that, the sort of the second epiphany, is that the primary differentiation is feedback. Is that when you have the frequent integral feedback that you get on a golf course or a tennis court, pickleball now in this day and age, the real thing is the thing that makes a difference between work and recreation or enjoyment, if you will, arduous work and enjoyment, is the quality of feedback. And so I'm going to take that one step further and say that what you really get with the implementation of the principles in the game of work is that you get a culture of appropriate feedback and appropriate appreciation. Now, I've spent, let's see, 73, 2024. I mean, it's over 50 years doing this.
That's a
And
few.
that's how you get to be the grandfather for Forbes, is you just get old. Uh,
You just stick around
but
long enough.
but in all that time, in every large presentation I've made, I've asked a question, and that was, is there anybody here who feels overappreciated? And James, I'm going to tell you, in 50 years, I've never had someone stand up and say, I feel overappreciated in my job.
That's not
Never,
one anyone raises their hand for.
never. So if you look at what we're really trying to create is this relationship between a coach and a player, our terms, or a manager and a subordinate, hate that word, um, to develop a great relationship where the expression of appreciation is appropriate. And one of the clients that I'm continuing to consult with, just one of their senior uh, C-suite members just effected a merger and acquisition that will add 30% to this group's top line and add about 40% to their bottom line.
Great.
Well, yeah. Now, fortunately, because it's a culture where somebody's paying attention to appreciation and feedback, um, his coach went out, took the initiative, and wrote him a very delightful bonus check.
Everyone
Appropriate.
appreciates that feedback.
Everybody appreciates that feedback. But the other thing that I heard just the other day from the chairman is that the acquirees, the folks we scooped up, who are going to walk away with 8 or 9 digit net worth improvements here in that 10 to $100 million. When they came to all come together to sign the deal, he said the hugs that they had for the senior C-suite who brought the deal together, they thought they were going to squeeze their heads off. They were so appreciative of the thing that he had done. So when you think about it, if if your work doesn't fall into the appreciation level and isn't appropriately appreciated, it's a bummer. It's an absolute downer, buzzkill, all of those words. And so what I really believe is working in the game of work is this idea of getting managers and leaders to appropriately appreciate the work of their people.
Chuck, does that also bleed over a little bit into our peers? Can that also apply to how we treat each other and peer-to-peer relationships?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It I think it's one of the most overlooked, unmet human need that people have.
Yeah, I
We
would
had
agree.
I remember one time, this was, the 50 years is filled with poignant memories, but I remember one time where we had a plant manager for a company that you would all recognize if I mentioned it, but I won't. And she was running a supplemental, like a second factory kind of thing because the demand was so high. And she went in, they had established some scorecards, they'd established some ways to understand the contribution. And she went to one of her managers who had been in this company for 40 years. 40 years. The guy is, in his 50s and 60s. And she delivered an appropriate compliment, appreciation, and feedback. And this guy is a welder, and he starts to cry. Little awkward. Okay. So she pursues. She said, "Did I upset you?" He says, "No, but I've been here for 40 years. That's the first time anybody's ever thanked me for doing a job."
Wow.
40 years, 52 weeks, 40 hours. I mean, just how inane can we be to miss that?
Yeah,
So
that's very telling, when you have that kind of an experience. And as leaders, we're missing the boat. When we are not showing that kind of appreciation for for really what we claim is the most important asset of the company, the people.
Yep,
If we're
no
not
question.
showing that appreciation, we're missing the boat.
Well, and the Gallup organization and Gallup Strengths is one of the seminal contributors to people and management and the rest of it. And they've been doing that survey, I think, as long as I've been in this game. So 40 or 50 years. Now,
Yeah,
the scary thing is that in that entire period of time and all the money that people have spent with all the consultants and all of the this year's book, next year, last year, our deal is we're going to write a book about every 18 months and then until you figure out it didn't work, and then we'll write you another one. Uh, a little self-disclosure there. But out of all that money that's been spent, if you look at the Gallup engagement scores from 40 years ago and the Gallup engagement scores in 2024, they haven't changed much. I mean, we've thrown this, it's almost like the war on drugs. We've thrown this billions of dollars at this issue, and we still haven't quite identified how we hit the engagement. So we've been in the employee engagement business. It's kind of like being country before country was cool. I mean, we were working on it before anybody labeled it. And if you show appreciation to your people appropriately for the business that they're doing for you, it is Katie bar the door. It is exponential improvement, and we're just
so
we're
Chuck,
just excited to be a part of that.
let me ask a question. I had a
Shoot.
question, and then Connie jumped in on the chat and asked a question that was really related. So I'm going to combine the two of them. So how do you get the influencers on board, not just the early adopters? And what do you say to those that might be a little skeptical about making work fun and bringing the gamification in and hey, work is work and we got this balance between work and fun and go have fun on your own.
Yeah.
We're here to work. And how do you address that?
Well, our magic question is to people in the organization, and this can go at the CEO level down to the person answering the phone or a receptionist. What is it that you get done in this company that's valuable that we are not recognizing and or rewarding? I'm going to say that again because to me it's the magic question. What is it that you do, CEO, phone operator, that you get done, not your activity, but what do you accomplish that's important to this organization that we're not properly recognizing and rewarding? Now, the first time you use that, people on the call, the first time you ask that of any employee in almost any organization, you are right in the deer in the headlight. He talks about what they're telling you about what moving paper from here over to here. I do this, I do that. It's all activity based. We don't think in terms of incremental results. So,
What are the outcomes? Yeah.
yeah, so you start to ask that question and you say, okay, because the one of the great things that Drucker said among the multitude, one of the things that Drucker said is that if you want to make headway on productivity, you have to recognize that the person who does the job understands it better than the person who watches it. Now, that's almost like if I drop my phone, I go, oh, it must be gravity. I mean, it has that sort of obviousness. And, but he's right. And so our approach to that is let's talk about what the coach is responsible for that he needs from his team, he or she. And then what is that individual doing that makes sense of the job? And how do we take that and the principles of the game of work and create the three most important things that you get paid for? And when you have that, you get to walk out at the end of the day saying, this happened. We got this done. And so it's really all about helping people in an organization identify how they win. And everybody wants to know that. How do I win here with you today, coach? And when they can't get an answer because our brains are binary, we go to a default which says there must be no way to win here. And if you get into that situation, well, I don't know. Are you a golfer? Do you have clubs?
I am a golfer. Yes.
Okay. All right. And those are two separate questions. I have clubs. I'm a golfer. Anyway, you no doubt in your career have been in that, and it's usually an association golf tournament, and you get combined with three people that you haven't met yet. And the first guy steps up and hits it out of bounds. The second one hits it in the water. And the third guy turns around and says, should I hit it? Should I hit it again or put it back on the tee? Now, you you quickly come to the conclusion that there is no way that we're going to win this deal. And so on the golf course, the only thing you can do is call for the refreshment cart. I mean, that's your outset. But
We're
when
just
that
having
happens,
fun now.
we're just it's laugh and giggle. Uh, but in a work environment, when people can't figure out how to win, they go to the no way to win. And when you dwell there for any period of time, and it's so short, it's scary, you quit. There's just, you
Yeah.
emotionally shut down.
You
So
just
at
shut
that
it
point,
down.
yeah, at that point in time, you either quit and leave, which means we've got a new opportunity to start over with somebody else and do it better. Or the worst part, not worser, I almost went there, but the worst part is the people who quit and stay because you don't get
Yeah.
a vacancy, you get a virus. And now you're starting to contaminate surrounding healthy tissue with, can you believe what a jerk place this is to work and blah, 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 blah. So,
What a
so
difference
we,
that makes.
yeah. And, and so to the skeptic, we usually say, try it. Find somebody. Maybe it's a problem employee. Maybe it's somebody who's super. Maybe it's your own circumstance. Just try it. Identify what you know, there's a bazillion job descriptions written in the world. And they're mostly buried. I mean, I would challenge anybody who's on a seminar to quote from it from memory. That's never going to happen. I would, my second challenge would be, do you remember where you put it, or do you have to call HR for a copy? But my
Yeah.
point is that these could be written in Latin because it's a dead language deal. And and
Yeah.
but if
What is the real benefit?
yeah, and 3 pages. And my turnaround, my champion, my clarion call is uh, just tell me how to win. Let's you and I decide how I make a difference and how I contribute to your success as a team coach or leader, and then let's go play.
Yeah, that sounds so much more productive than just a description of the tasks that you expect me to come in and do from 8 to 5 or whatever my shift is. And
Yeah,
I really like that description. I can figure out what to do if you'll tell me how to win. I'll figure out what to do to get there. But
absolutely.
I would much rather know what my contribution looks like when we're winning.
Hmm.
Richard gave us a comment. He said, I found that ensuring a good job match is one of the most important factors in creating a culture of flourishment. Here at Workplace AI, we talk often about having the right people in the right seat.
Yeah.
And so I agree, Richard. It is really important that that's a match both for the job and the person, but also for the company culture and the person. And I think that culture, Chuck, that we're talking about this morning I really, really like that. Tell me how to win. Because when I golf, I know exactly how to win. When I go
Yeah,
skydiving, I know how to win. You make sure the chute opens and you land in the right field instead of a tree. That's a
that's
win. But at
pretty.
work, often we
Yeah,
don't tell people what that is. What does that look like?
and you would never strap that parachute on your back or get in the plane without having fundamental instruction as to what success looks like.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely.
I'm going to
Well,
put
that's
this on. Yeah, you go.
no, I was just going to say that's a great way of addressing that. And I guess I will just say I want to go back to something that Connie asked about, and that is just how do we make sure that we're bringing the influencers in and bringing them in and getting them on board, not just the early adopters that recognize the value, but how do we get everybody on board with this?
Well, the one of uh, one of the great American philosophers is a guy named Willie Moscone. And for those of you who don't recognize the name, he was a pool hustler, and he was the guy that taught Minnesota Fats how to play the game.
Okay.
And we, so you have to go, you just have to go look for stuff. And then but
There's a
Willie
lot of
said,
examples out there. You just got to find them.
that's all you had. And people say, wow, that's, you created the game, the game of work. I didn't, I was fortunate enough to assemble some words that describe human behavior and then talked about transferring it from one venue to another. And there are so many out there. But anyway, Willie had two rules to be a successful pool hustler. And the first one doesn't matter, but if I don't tell you, everybody will be hung up on it. The first one is never play any harder than you have to win. So you don't pull open your kimono and show your expertise. But the second one is really critical, and that is always take the easy shots first. And on the pool table, of course, you get an obstacle out of the way, which opens up other deals, and we make that. But when you're involved in implementing the game of work or change, period, uh, go find the ones that make sense. And if we you'll find somebody. There's always a Connie. Well, Connie's one of a kind, but there's always somebody in an organization who gets it, who wants to be involved. We're another bank, total different organization. And they asked me to fly down to Phoenix because they were processing loans. And they had, I think Peggy was her name. And Peggy, if you looked at her performance and her productivity, she was like magnitudes better, faster, quicker, and more accurate than anybody else processing these loans. So the chairman asked me to go down and figure out what this was because if we could replicate it, we'd really have something. So I'm down and I'm listening to the manager and kind of looking at the people. And I said, "You're here. What makes Peggy so productive?" He goes, "Well, when Peggy finishes a loan, she takes a minute and rings a bell and celebrates." I go, "That is really cool.
There's a
Where's
win.
the Where's the bell?" He goes, "We don't have one." I'm sorry. You just told me that Peggy rang the bell every time she got a loan process. He goes, "Yeah, the bell's in her head." But Peggy stops, celebrates, rings the bell, and goes on to the next one.
Why would
Okay.
you not get a bell and hang it on the wall?
They have one at Huntsman, for people that are survivors. But that's where there's a Peggy, there's a Connie, there's a George, there's a Jeff somewhere um, who buys into it, and you just
You
you
just
just
start.
you just start. Thank you very much for saving me from that. Yeah, you just start, and um, and some places they're really simple. We did a lot of work in the beverage business, both for Coke and Pepsi and other adult beverage companies. And in one of those, um, they had a log on moving trailers around in the yard, getting to where they needed to be loaded. And all it was a log. And they filled it out and they turned it in. Never heard a thing. Nobody ever talked to them unless they failed to fill the log out. And then somebody called them and yelled and screamed. Have we seen this in any company? Yes. Okay. So, so we turned this around, same information, and that is, I forget what the effectiveness filter was, but they were now looking at this in terms of how long the trailer stayed at the dock or how many times we had to move it or whatever. But we now put some relevance to and some winning and some outcomes to what they were trying to do. Well, guess what? Within a week, we have less trailer moves and more freight being handled. Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Perfect result.
and then you get the answer. Well, did you incentivize people? Did you punish them for not doing the right thing? Did you, where's the no? We just they defined what was important, and we decided we could reinforce what was important,
We just
and then
showed
they
them what a
liked
win was.
that. Oh, wow, that's incredible. No, that's human nature if you just take the time to set up the game up right.
We like to win. A couple of quick comments here, Chuck. Caitlin just mentioned that when you turn things into a game and how to play it, it demystifies the complicated corporate strategies. I love that. How many times have we gone into the New Year meeting and here's our mission for the year and our goals and priorities, and man, I much rather say here's the game and here's the rules and here's how we win.
Yeah. And
How
and
nice is
you
that?
well, and you find that in organizations that literally focus on the win. And then the other thing that comes with the game of work implementation, you magnify the number of people that get it, that can win. And so you get this department and they're running well. And I guess this is in response to the how do you get through the skeptics, but you get one department and it's running well, or you get a small department, or you get three people and it's running well. And then pretty soon you have these little knocks on the door and they go, those guys over in payables, they seem to be having a lot of fun doing what they're doing. Uh, is there any chance we could open ourselves up to that? And then you go, would you like to? You got
Yep.
just like hooking salmon in Alaska, you got to get that hook set, and then you start to do it, and it self perpetuates. That's kind of the fun part.
It is. Yeah. Connie gave us one more comment that is just so on point. She says when the lights go off on the scoreboard, everybody stops playing. How many times have you
Absolutely.
seen that? That is so true. If you don't know what the score is, nobody keeps playing the game. So thank you, Connie.
Well,
Appreciate your comment.
and to that point, you know, we've been in places where a new administration comes in after the game works involved and go, for whatever reason, mostly ignorance, they'll say, well, we don't need that crap, and we've had circumstances where people actually now become secret scorekeepers. So even though the leadership is not asking for it and not celebrating it because they get a certain high, if you will, um, from a day with that kind of information, they're keeping those things by themselves
Yeah.
and not showing anybody. So
Yeah. How many different goal setting programs have you sat through where that's exactly what they teach is you've got to measure and you've got to be able to have those wins in order to keep your own morale going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody knows, again, Mr. Meyer, my early mentor, he said success is a progressive realization of a predetermined personal goal. So that progress, that success, that, have I taken a few pounds off? Am I better in this shape? Have I increased my workout, my time on a stationary bike or whatever? Um, have I conquered a black ski run that was been intimidating? It's all about the progress. And at the most basic level, uh, what is our life for? It's really to progress from the person we've been to the person we can be, and through the various guidelines that we get in tenets of what many would refer to as religion. So, um, yeah,
So, Chuck, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about progress because we mentioned earlier it's been a few years since the book was written.
yeah,
Where are you at now? So tell us what you're doing now to implement Game of Work and what tools are available. And then I'd like to get into our partnership and tell
yeah.
folks a little bit about what we're doing together.
Well, I am I am mostly retired. I have 10 grandchildren, and they have primacy on my schedule. Um, I'm skiing and looking forward to getting a little more snow to have fun with that. I I've hesitated to make this declaration public, so we may have to edit this out. But
Those of you that are
but
here live, listen up. You're getting it straight.
the, this whole element of appropriate appreciation still beckons to me. And so I haven't formalized it yet. I haven't put it into a goal, but in all probability, in the next several years, we'll have at least a white paper uh, adding that to or making that an umbrella concept of what the game of work is all about. Because if you get your handle around that, it's an inexhaustible, no cost benefit that you generate to your team. And
Yeah.
that may be the one thing that I still need to do.
Okay. I know you had mentioned the possibility of putting a digital course together for folks
Yep.
that would like to maybe dig in a little bit more than the book and be able to offer some things at work. Is that in the works?
It is with you guys, and I would love to have you take a few minutes and explain to our audience what we are working on together and what that might turn out to be.
Well, thank you. We'll let me turn on my screen sharing here and let's actually just let folks take a look at it. So, for those of you that are not familiar with Workplace AI, we're a company that helps gamify in some ways content for subject matter experts. So we partner with individuals like Chuck to provide feedback on their concepts. How many times have you attended a training and then 3 or 4 days later you forgot everything you learned, and a month later when they come back to do the surveys and see if change was actually affected, uh, those surveys often come back very poorly responded to. So what we do is we provide an AI tool that provides follow-up. We call it game film. So for those of you that may have noticed in our panelists today, we've got a panelist by the name of Scribe, and that's our AI bot that's attending our meeting and at the end can record or provide transcripts and summaries and those types of things. But In our partnership with Chuck, what we're doing specifically is we're providing feedback on how well people are implementing the game of work. So Chuck and I got together yesterday and had a brief meeting, and what we're looking at on the screen right now is a recording of that. I can play the video and I can look at a summary, and but here I've got a score on how well I did in implementing the tenets of game of work. So we've talked about feedback and scorekeeping and goals and having a choice. And so here are my scores in how well I did in those areas. And if I want to look at a little deeper at scorekeeping, I can pull that up and here's the rationale. I discussed our upcoming webinar and had some positive feedback. But here are some suggestions on how I could do better in the future. So implement a scorekeeping system that tracks registration numbers and engagement metrics. Schedule regular check-ins to review those and see how they align with goals, and everything we've been talking about, making it fun and engaging to keep people motivated as part of that scorekeeping. And then I can look at my progress. So over time, how well am I doing with this particular principle in the meetings that I attend? Now, the really fun part about this is that everyone that attends the meeting gets their own feedback. So Chuck would get a score different than mine, and anyone else that would attend would be able to get feedback specific to their performance according to the game of work. And so when we start talking about scorecards and keeping track and being able to use current tools. You talked earlier about the grid system, Chuck, and you're putting it on a graph and getting the median line in there. We're wanting to provide those kind of tools in the modern world, and AI allows us to do that so very, very easily. So that's kind of a little bit about what we're doing for you, Chuck. How does that tell us kind of how you see that being a good partnership for a game of work?
Well, I think first off, the uh, you can't fight age. It's there are there are things that you cannot do at 75 that you used to do at 55, and it doesn't get any better after that. So this is a way I think for this powerful principle to be perpetuated and put forth. And in addition to that, one of the things I think, and this might be a little not a surprise, but one of the things that we'd love to do is to have questions aggregate in our workplace AI game of work space. And my commitment is really now to share um, the secrets, um, the examples, uh, respond to questions like have been asked in this seminar. And so we'd like to encourage the people, everybody, but specifically those who are with us today, to fire those questions off. Keep me young, keep me thinking, give me the things that are slowing you down, or give me the things that you're disappointed in because part of what is being called gamification um, misses in some sense, in some cases, misses the feedback and the appreciation part. Let us help you implement that going forward. So I think that's what we want to do. Um, just want to be able to give back. This has been a
So,
it's
so
been a
your
great
book
run.
is your book is available on Amazon. Is that correct, Chuck?
Yes, yes, yep,
So
all of them.
Game of Work is still very much applicable and available, and can be purchased on Amazon. What is the best way for people to contact you, Chuck? Is it a LinkedIn message, or is there an email address
Sure.
you'd like to give out?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can reach me that way. My email address directly is CAC, my initials, Charlie Apple Charlie, at gameofwork.com. And my commitment is that if you reach out and you have a problem, we'll give you an answer and look forward to e- each individual exploring the workplace AI and what that vehicle can be for you. Um, but yeah, just really,
So
really just want to give back.
that's awesome, Chuck. And it's been so fun to be able to work with you these last few months. Let me just share as well for those of you that have the book and would like to do a trial of the Game of Work feedback. We would be more than happy to set you up on a free trial, let you use that for 30 days and just kind of track your progress and how you're doing. I am also on LinkedIn. You can look for James Tippett or my email address, james.tippett at workplace-ai.com. So you shoot me a LinkedIn message or reach out via email, either one. Um, just ask, and we'd be more than happy to set you up on a trial for the Game of Work AI insight that goes along with Chuck's book and gives you that ongoing feedback. It's so important to keep score. And what we're doing is just providing another way of being able to do that and make sure that you know whether you're winning and what you can do to improve your game. You know, we talked about golf earlier, and I thought I was a golfer, and then got to a point where I thought I wanted to improve my game a little bit because I was getting embarrassed with the people I played with. So I hired a coach. And in just a couple of lessons, my game was completely different. And so, you know, that game film, that coaching, that ability to see how to win better is a real concept. So
James, one other offer, I guess, is
please,
that Game of Work does have a website, gameofwork.com, and you can also request from there. We have electronic executive summaries on all of the other books, Scorekeeping for Success, Managing the Obvious, The Better People Leader, and The Four Laws of Debt-Free Prosperity. So um, feel free to reach out, grab the information that's there, request anything that you'd like, and of course, you can leave a message at our general mailbox.
perfect. Chuck, let's just reach out. Any questions or comments? We've got a couple of comments that have come in. Connie just says, "You're still one of my greatest mentors." Thank you, Chuck. Making a big difference. Great kudos from Connie. Richard is 87 and says that does slow him down a little bit. So he's a little ahead of both of us for sure. And said that he'd love to work with you on the appropriate appreciation. So there's some comments there. Any other questions from our audience as we wrap things up? We really appreciate everyone being here this morning. And Chuck, it's always a pleasure to visit with you. And every time we visit, I learn a little bit more. Some of the way that you explained the concepts today, again, just opened my eyes to a couple of key things that I'll be doing differently. And I hope that's true for our audience, that they're walking away with something that they're going to do a little differently.
Okay. I'm looking, whoops, lost it. I was looking at a question from somebody that popped up in the chat, but it just went away. So, um,
We did get a new one just now from LinkedIn. Christine said the digital and AI capabilities will also accelerate learnings, innovation, and enterprise adoption. Great stuff. Thank you, Christine. And again, we'd love to get you on a trial and let you start using some of those and see how they work for you and your organization. Chuck,
been a
thank you
good
so much.
pleasure's
What a
mine.
pleasure. Say that again.
I said, just the pleasure's been mine. It's been my professional life, and to think there's a gentleman that I'd give a shout out to named Bruce Tulgan, and Bruce has done his entire career on trying to get uh, old managers to talk to Gen Z and Gen Zix and Gen everything, Gen Beta now, I guess. Um, Bruce has done some marvelous work in helping different generations talk to one another. The thing that has been so reassuring for us, riveting for me, is that every time Bruce comes out and identifies a new generation and starts to talk about what they need, almost invariably in that list is frequent feedback, clear definition of objectives. How am I doing today? Want to be coached, but not overcoached. And I want to have some choice about my business. And it is just, it's been delightful to see that this is something that I was blessed enough to have an opportunity to discover and work with and refine. And that still is one of the principles about how you treat people, and it won't go away. And it works every time we use it.
Yeah, what a great recommendation. And it's so true. It doesn't matter the generation. The principles that we've discussed today are timeless. They're going to apply to all of us. So
Very good.
we're at our hour. So Chuck, thank you again. Thank you those who have attended. We hope this has been beneficial. And again, we'd love to reach out, connect on LinkedIn, reach out and Chuck, let's continue the conversation. We'd love to have you back and do another of these and just again continue. We got a good start today, but so everyone watch your emails and LinkedIn, and we'll get another one of these scheduled.
Absolutely. We'll delve a little deeper. I got stories.
Oh, I want to hear them.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a great morning.